Were you expecting an Apple earnings disaster last week? Had you heard that Apple is being destroyed in China with the return of Huawei? Well, Apple shocked everyone with the Q4 earnings beat. By the way, can you guess which Apple store this is? I'll give you a hint. It's somewhere in Asia. Now stick around with me as I go through three important points from the earnings call, and I'll reveal to you which store this is at the end.
All right, let's start with the financial numbers. Apple did $89.5 billion in revenue. That was down 1% year over year. Profit was $1.46 per diluted share. That was up 13% year over year. If we look at the breakdown between products and services, products was down $3.8 billion, but services was up $3.1 billion. And then if we dig into the breakdown of physical products, iPhone was up $1.2 billion year over year. That means iPhone is actually ahead of iPhone 14 sales. The rest of the products, though, iPad, wearables, and Mac were all down. Mac down very, very significantly, down $3.9 billion, 34%. My take on this is that in general, these are very strong numbers given the terrible state of the global economy. We still have massive inflation in the US, war in Ukraine, and war in Gaza. I think overall the investment community is pretty spooked out and pretty nervous about another financial system crash coming. And then if we look at the product sales, the iPhone sales are particularly strong ahead of the iPhone 14 sales. That's a bit surprising given that there was no major visual redesign. And then also the headwinds in China, which we'll talk about later, posed significant challenges for the iPhone 15. Mac sales were quite disappointing, as it seems M2 has not been able to keep up and grow on the momentum that M1 created. But the 16.3% jump in services sales is really impressive. Humans continue to get used to paying for higher and higher prices for digital products and digital subscriptions. Apple is reaping the benefits of this. Apple really should be aggressively pursuing the day that services is the majority of their sales, but they still seem focused on the hardware being their main sales, as their online services still remain fairly simple, such as cloud file storage, media and app distribution, and damage insurance with Apple Care Plus. All right, let's dig into China now. If we look at the revenue breakdown by region, we see all the regions came in pretty similar. China was down 2.5% at about 400 million. That's a little bit surprising given how strong Huawei has been. If you didn't know, this has been the year of return of Huawei to the flagship phone market. They released the phone, the Mate 60 Pro here, which has really caught the interest of the Chinese mobile phone community. People have been lining up around the block for it, and the slogan for the fans of Huawei have been chanting Yao Yao Ling Xian, which translates to light years ahead. I have both the iPhone 15 Pro Max and Huawei Mate 60 Pro, and I've been testing them extensively in Hong Kong, in the USA, as well as here in China. They're both very good phones. Apple, though, risks losing out on the China market in the medium term, though. They could do a lot more to focus on the Chinese consumers' habits. One example is Huawei includes beauty filters for its native camera app. This is almost a necessity in Asia, as untouched portrait photos are deemed almost unacceptable. Another example is Huawei's smart payment system, where you can just hold your phone up to a payment scanner and it'll automatically open and jump to your WeChat QR code or your Alipay QR code. It's kind of like how Apple Pay works, except for the payment systems that users in China actually use. Apple does not have any feature like this at this point. Tim Cook was specifically asked about China and Apple's prospects in China in the Q&A. He was very positive about it and said iPhone actually set a September quarter record in mainland China. And then about the future's prospects, he said, over the long term, I view China as an incredibly important market, and I'm very optimistic about it. My take on things, it's really shocking that Apple continues to do so strongly in China. Huawei mania with Huawei's return to the flagship phone market is a really, really big deal. It's almost to the point where you feel shameful or embarrassed that you still buy Apple. Huawei makes very good mobile phones. They've probably recaptured a lot of the market share from the other Android makers already, and it's going to be a real dogfight with Apple over the next few years. Apple must start focusing more on the details of making the phone work well for China consumers, or risk losing to Huawei. All right, lastly, let's talk about the new Wenzhou Apple Store opening. Tim Cook actually mentioned it as an example of continued investment in the China market in the Q&A. Here's the Apple logo that Apple created for the new store opening. The logo takes inspiration from Wenzhou blue jiaxie woodblock dyeing technique. It's one of the 4 traditional printing and dyeing techniques of China. Here you can see Apple incorporated the logo and design into their hoarding. And then this Xiaohongshu user showed the opening gift package that was given out that includes a t-shirt and a sticker. Here are the images that Apple released showing off the design of the new store. Apple does a great job of keeping new designs feeling fresh yet familiar. Here some Xiaohongshu users showed off the opening day crowd. And here's the opening walk-in moment where customers got to interact and high-five with the local Apple Store retail team. In general, it's just amazing to see there's still so much energy and excitement for the Apple brand in China.
Looks like Apple survived this round of the fight with Huawei. And with the M3 MacBook Pro lineup looking really, really strong today, Apple's going to have a pretty good Christmas quarter probably. All right, now the moment you guys have all been waiting for. This beautiful Apple store is in Nanning, China. Nanning is the capital of Guangxi province. Come visit sometime. It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful Apple store. Great people, great food. See y'all next time.